Hi, my name is Dr. Gilda Scarfe and I'm the CEO and founder of Positive Ed. And I'm absolutely thrilled and delighted to be invited by the World Happiness Fest to talk to you about why knowledge is no longer enough in education. We are currently facing severe difficulties at the societal, economic, and personal levels. Societally, we are struggling with financial instability, climate change, and personal privacy invasion. Economically, globalization, innovation are very fast changing our paradigms of business. And on a personal level, we are struggling with finding meaningful employment and achieving happiness. But one of the most important issues our society is facing is educational progress, which is failing behind the curve of technological progress, resulting in social pain, lack of fulfillment, and depression. The world we live in is ambiguous, volatile, and uncertain, and literature around the world now commonly suggests that there is a crisis in education, which is not just a local or national one, it is an international one, especially after the pandemic. Children are still routinely being taught to the test through common practices in teaching, based around the question spotting and learning stock responses, which may gain marks, but which actually feign competence and mask a lack of understanding. And we have to ask ourselves the questions to whether the relentless culture of teaching children to the test is actually providing the young men and women that we want them to graduate from our schools to make up the society, economy, and the leaders of tomorrow, and how all of this affects their own well-being. There is a growing problem of high level of anxiety and poor mental health affecting young people around the world. This can be partly blamed on the COVID and the pandemic, but this is way before that. And also we can blame on the impact and emotional intrusion of the social media, but we cannot ignore the rules of schools, the curriculum, and the testing culture in contributing to the growing levels of anxiety and depression in young people. Therefore, it is really critical to equip our youth with the skills to build their own resilience in order to prevent the mental illness and to allow them to flourish. But we also need to equip the young people with the higher order cognitive, social, and emotional skills that allows them to connect meaningfully with their communities. After all, we are counting on the youth of today to become the people who solve the multifaceted challenges threatening our future. And for this, we need to foster a generation of youth who are able to generate change on personal, social, national, and global levels. The role of schooling in creating such individual is absolutely paramount. We need to adopt a new paradigm of education that promotes the developmental of a whole person, not just the academic learning. From when we are young, education is sold to us as the secret to our future success. We spend hours upon hours learning dates in history or equation in maths. We follow carbon copy programs in the belief that they will lead us to good exam results or grades. Now, most of education today is founded on learning for exams, in effect, rote learning. What education instead should be is an endless pursuit of understanding, where we try to learn how to think rather than what to think. Education in its modern form rewards that teaching to the test. We toil away on whether the curriculum, whatever the curriculum dictates. The actual amount of leeway for teachers is incredibly small. The teachers need to teach an overloaded curriculum to many children in different abilities. In maths, everyone gets a formula and told what to do. In history, they receive a timeline and a textbook to read. In short, everyone uses a process which often does not allow for much space for students to pursue their own interests, their own strength, and also how to critically reflect on the knowledge. Now, this type of education can take away that enthusiasm for learning. We tend to make learning about basic facts rather than enjoyable and fascinating mode of thought. It subverts education into this exercise of memorization. And as a result, there is no surprise that many students do not actually enjoy education. In fact, it is to be expected that many feel that the path down education truly is not for them, since whenever they go down this path, they are forced to learn facts and figures without any clues to where these facts come from or how they might be useful in their lives. When education pivots to teaching us how to think, we naturally find learning more enjoyable. After struggling at something, when we finally succeed after a very long and challenging time, it is one of the greatest feelings in the world. It is a feeling of genuine fulfillment. And when we finally overcome the barriers to knowledge or have a breakthrough in understanding something which seemed impossible, then the feeling of accomplishment is truly second to none. In the most common manifestation, it is why getting into university is an accomplishment many of us feel so proud of. We had worked for long and hard hours, but after incredible quantities of work, we finally succeeded. We got there. And at the end of the day, a lot of the fact-based learning we learn about at school will be entirely useless. What instead will be useful, though, is the understanding of how to think in difficult situations, how to overcome challenges, and how to have a critical understanding of facts and knowledge. This comprises an appreciation of hard work and also the ability to think for yourself. Through this, we both better fulfill the purpose of education and provide the fulfillment to everybody in education. Now, there are three glaring problems that threaten the well-being of our students and the way how they learn. And the first is the presence of negative emotion as a result of social interaction. Now, these range from the insecurities caused by the social media, to bullying, to cultural violence, which have recently received a great deal of media attention. The education system must tackle the barriers that many individuals face in their pursuit of positive relationship. For example, better education about the threats of social media and the concept of consent, as well as extended support for victims, are clearly necessary to find the current epidemic of mental health problems. Another critical issue is the unmitigated focus on the concept of achievement to the exclusion of other elements of well-being. This most clearly is manifested in the vast amount of stress associated with the university admission process, where students base their self-worth on their ability to gain acceptance to universities of sufficient quality and prestige. The new field of positive education has a key role to play in the reinvention of schools as described earlier. Now, simply defined, positive education is the education for both traditional academic skills and for the skills that foster well-being and flourishing. It is a key tenet within the field of positive education that the skills and mindsets which promote well-being can be explicitly taught, facilitated, and assessed by the schools. Just as there are formulas in maths and history and practices used to teach the skills, these skills, there are formulas and practices that can be used to teach our students the skills for well-being and flourishing. The field of positive education has included research into important topics such as resilience, positive emotion, engagement, character strength, relationships, meaning, just to name a few. And research has shown that positive education can lead to outcomes for students such as higher well-being and also higher academic achievement. Additionally, learning the skills for well-being at school can have long-term effects on career success on job satisfaction, on income. And importantly, there is an early research to suggest that positive education can be used to cultivate empathy, altruism, and pro-social behavior. And students engaged in programs rank about 14% higher on achievement tests than students who do not participate in such programs. Professor Barbara Fredrickson's work has shown a clear link between positive emotion and cognitive skills such as brainstorming, problem solving, perspective taking, and creativity. All of these cognitive skills facilitate the student's ability to learn. Neuropsychology research supports the contention that well-being enhances learning. When students feel good, their brain releases dopamine, which enhances attention and improves various aspects of memory. So positive education has developed scientifically validated techniques that schools can use to boost a student's positive emotion and thus enhance their academic achievement and their love of learning. And the studies have found that academic achievement was positively related to character strength and perseverance and fairness, gratitude, honesty, and hope, just again to name just few. Now, all these personal qualities can be fostered by schools. This type of research brings hope to many students who may not have the traditional academic abilities that have typically been fostered at school as a way to ensure success. Now, to date, the research has built up a convincing case for the success of positive education in schools. And I work around the world, and I am incredibly excited to tell you that people who at schools who embrace the positive education, they have a better and more balanced approach to success. And developing the whole person gives an opportunity for the social, cultural, emotional, and intellectual development. However, the positive outcomes above sustained requires a strategic thinking about how you're going to implement something like that. How do you embed positive education into culture of teacher training, school leadership training, and system-wide educational initiative? Because it is critical that positive education is woven into a wider curriculum rather than being seen as exclusively a well-being tool and housed within the pastoral care program or just a nice thing to have. Education systems need to support the change towards the 21st century schools and positive education movement by expanding the metrics upon which they evaluate the school performance is paramount. Well-being should be an accepted indicator of school success. Leaders need to consider the use of system theory approach to embed positive education through curriculum, co-curriculum, and pastoral care program. A whole school approaches are required where all staff, teaching or non-teaching, are trained in positive education techniques so that the principles of positive psychology in education are modeled and supported throughout the entire fabric of the school. Frameworks are always very helpful in a way to guide the implementation of any new education initiative. In this case, Professor Martin Seligman's Perma Model will be a very useful framework for assisting school leaders to foster positive education in schools. The Perma Model argues that there are 5 enabling conditions for well-being, including positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. This model establishes a framework that embraces the promotion of individual well-being and achievement whilst simultaneously fostering a concern for others and the capacity to participate in civic responsibilities. The second framework is called PROSPER. PROSPER acronym stands for positivity, relationships, outcome, strength, purpose, engagement, and resilience. The third framework, it's my own framework called the Scarfe model, and consists of self-efficacy, commitment, attitude, relationship, focus, and emotional agility. This model embraces the promotion of personal well-being and mental toughness to enable individuals to navigate challenges and obstacles, and ultimately helping them flourish. The fourth one is psychological well-being, Carol Reef model. Psychological well-being consists of positive relationship with others, personal mastery, autonomy, a feeling of purpose and meaning in life, and personal growth and development. And the last but not least, it's the search model. Now, the search model is an approach, is not a program, created by Professor Lee Waters from Melbourne University, and is a data-driven meta-framework to support evidence-based decision for researchers and practitioners when designing and investigating and implementing positive education intervention. Now, this large-scale big data bibliometric analysis investigated the way positive psychology construct can be grouped in meaningful domains and how they relate to positive psychology and social functioning. Now, I hope this talk has prompted more questions than it has answered. I do not profess to have a formula for what the future of education should look like, who should lead it, or who should design it. But I am passionate in my belief that the current system, it's unfit for purpose and must be changed. I also believe that dedicated education professionals are the only viable leaders of education in the future. They have been ignored, overruled, and undermined by the government for too long, and they deserve not only a seat at the reform table, but to chair it, lead it, and drive it. I want to act as a catalyst for the change so that I can see the empowerment of professionals, leaders, and employees in the field of education. I also want to give voice to the students themselves and their parents, to voice their discontent, to start talking about change, and to discuss possible solutions. I encourage all of those interested in getting involved in the discussion to join me by registering their opinions on the future of education at www.positive-ed.co.uk. You have a unique opportunity ahead. Let's not waste it. We owe it to our young people, ourselves, and the future.